Today is May 24th, 2015. This is Michelle and Liam, and we're interviewing Joe Rakes. So Joe, please tell us about how Harry Bridges saved your bacon.
Well, I was president of the local, and I can't remember what year it was, but a while ago, and I shut the ship down over some issue. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, we shut the ship down, and I was dead wrong, and I knew that the BCMA was going to probably sue us. So I went over to the Canadian area to see what we could do about it, and their office was on Hastings Street. So when I get there, there's no area officers there at all. But Harry Bridges was there in the boardroom doing whatever, working on his papers or something. So I got talking to him, and he said, well, what brings you over here? So I told him the story of how I'd shut the ship down, and the BCMA was going to have me. So he didn't say anything. He just listened to the story, and I told him, and then I left. And I came back to the hall, and I thought, well, I'm going to be getting a call from the lawyers pretty quick. And nothing ever came. And I waited and waited days, and nothing ever happened. So I couldn't figure out why they didn't do anything, because they had me dead to rights. I mean, I couldn't have been more guilty. But anyway, so it was years later, I was talking to Craig Burchett, and he was the area representative. And he said, do you know that time you shut the ship down? I says, yeah. And you talked to Harry. He says, yeah, I told him my sad story. And he said, well, he went on the way back to San Francisco, because Craig Burchett drove him out to the airport, got him to stop off at the BCMA office, and he went in to talk to Strang, who was the president of the BCMA. And whatever, I don't know what he said, but he talked him out of doing whatever they were going to do to me. So nothing happened. And it was years later that I found that out. I didn't know that at the time. I just could never figure out why they didn't do anything, because nothing ever happened. Didn't get a phone call, nothing.
So why did you shut the ship down?
I think it was a car ship, and I was probably arguing over some safety issue or something. Anyway, you don't do that kind of thing, and it's not legal to do that. So, but frustration or whatever, I did it. So anyway, that's the one time that he saved my bacon, that I didn't even know he'd done it. And the other thing we can owe Harry, our local owes Harry, is when we got Robert Spanks. Because he went to Edgar Kaiser, the grandfather, to the guy that was here in Vancouver, and talked to him or discussed it with him. And Kaiser said, I'll give you voluntary recognition. In other words, he'd sign a contract with us, so they'll go through the votes and all of the procedure, but I will not join the BCMA. For whatever reason, I don't know, Kaiser didn't join employers associations anywhere, here in Canada or in the United States, nowhere. He didn't believe them, I guess. So Harry went and talked to him, and he came up to Westminster and told us that if you want Robert Spanks, you're going to have to sign a separate contract, which was not a really pleasant thing to do, because the union itself was dead against it. I mean, even to this day, some of the old gray hairs that are around still thrash me for doing it, that we did that, because it meant signing a separate collective agreement outside of the BCMA, which made the BCMA very angry, and they're still not happy about that situation. And it ended up, the guys we sent down there to finally go to work, they all got letters saying that they didn't get back to the BCMA. In 30 days, they'd be deregistered. And some of them quit, come back, because they got scared that they didn't want to be deregistered. Others stayed and got deregistered. And then over the years, we had to deal with that, get that removed. Because if they'd got fired or quit, they had nowhere to go. They couldn't come back to the waterfront. They were deregistered. So it took us quite a while to get rid of that. And what we got was a guarantee that had a ratio into it. I forget what the number was. Anyways, your membership was based on the hours of work in your port. So we always kept our ratio. We always kept 40 spots, because that's how many people are Robert Spanks. So I said to the BCMA, okay, they're deregistered, but you can't tell me who I'm going to take into my union. And as long as I keep the membership below the 40, the ratio, whatever the figure was, I can take those guys into the union to say I've sworn them back in. So we never had to do it, but that's what we did. We always kept the membership 40 spots below where the ratio was. And the ratio would change depending on how busy the port was, how many hours, because it was based on an hours formula. So that's how we got around that issue, and then over the years that went away. But those are the two things that Harry did for me personally and the port. I mean, he did a lot of things for the union, but for like you can name those two things that were specific to Westminster Port.
So Harry Bridges negotiated directly with Kaiser?
Yeah, he went. We didn't negotiate the contract.
No.
He went and said, because they were building the Roberts Banks dock, and we wanted it obviously for our jurisdiction.
Mm.
So he went to Kaiser, the grandfather, and said, we want to be there. So Kaiser said, okay, I'll let you go there. I'll agree, but I'm not joining the BCMA.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
did he do that because Local 502 said to Harry Bridges, can you speak to him on behalf of us?
No, I think probably it was the Canadian area, Bobby Peebles, and those guys went to Harry and said,
okay.
can you talk to Kaiser?
Right.
Because we want to get the jurisdiction in.
Yeah.
So that's how that came about. And actually, like, I don't know, I'm repeating what I said, but do you remember when Peter said that we were in one of the few unions he knows that where the port shut down and the union didn't go with it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I got thinking about that, and there's probably four major reasons why we didn't. And one was that Fraser Surrey across the river here, the Teamsters had that. It was a split jurisdiction. We did the ships when they were in. They did the dock work when there was no ships. So to get the dock work, we took 4 Teamsters in that were working there. Took them until 502, which caused some ruckus because the next 4 guys on the A board didn't get in the union. So here we got these Teamsters who had never worked in the waterfront a day in their life, suddenly are members.
Yeah.
And casuals who had worked on the waterfront probably 5, 6, 7 years didn't get in.
Yeah.
So anyway, the decision was made by the executive. I was on the executive then to do it. Because what it did was secured our jurisdiction at Fraser Surrey. We got the whole dock there and everything. So that was one thing. The other thing was the decision by the Canadian area, when we went to the Canadian area at the convention, to get the Canadian area to agree that the jurisdiction of Roberts Banks was ours. Because if you read an old constitution, it says that. It says the jurisdiction goes from the river mouth to the border. But that was just us. It wasn't the whole union. So we went to the convention and got the whole union to agree that that jurisdiction was ours.
Okay.
And I think I told you this story. At the vote, there was 1 no. Everybody else agreed and 1 no. And the guy that voted no was Bobby Peebles. And after the vote was called out, he got up and said, I agree that it should be Westminster's, but I don't want it to be unanimous. So we got the jurisdiction with 1 no vote. And then the other one was when we agreed to sign a separate contract at West Shore. Because had we not done that, it would either been some other union or non-union. And what I was told was that the Kaiser's favorite union at the time would have been the operating engineers. Had we not, if we'd have said, no, we want you to go into the BCMA, he would have said, fine, I'll sign with somebody else. So those are 3 of the big decisions we made. And we decided better than we knew. I mean, we didn't understand what we were doing. We were basically just trying to protect our jurisdiction. But those decisions allowed us to grow while the port went down. Because when the PCT was shutting down, I think our membership was probably less than 300. And next year will be 1,000.
Wow.
When PCT shut down here in New
When
Westminster?
they started to build these things here.
Right.
I think we were just under 300, it's like 290, 295. We would bounce around the 300 figure all the time.
So would I be correct in saying that was around 1983, 84, somewhere around there?
I think PCT shut down in
Yeah,
1981.
yeah, it would have been early 80s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Early
Wow.
to middle 80s. I mean, it just didn't shut down in one day. It was a gradual
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but when they were shutting it down, we'd already secured across the river. We had that done because that was done because I was in the executive from 66 to 69. So I was on the executive when that was done. So say 69, 68, 69. So that's how that came about.
Yeah.
So did the BCMA ever try to convince Kaiser to join them?
They do all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, we had an incident just a little while ago. The labor relations officer at Kaiser phoned up the BCMA to ask for somebody's service, and whoever he was talking to said, if you want that information, you should join us, join the BCMA. And the sooner you do it, the better it'll be. It gets an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It will never be solved unless
So they decide to join the
they either
BCMA.
join or the BCMA does something else.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think they'll ever probably join voluntarily.
You said there were. Did you say there were 4 reasons why the union
Yeah,
survived?
I gotta
There was
think of the other one.
Fraser, Surrey,
Fraser, Surrey,
Point Roberts.
the jurisdiction
The
of Point
jurisdiction,
Roberts,
and then the West Shore.
West Shore. I guess there's only the 3.
Those are 3, yeah.
But I mean, there's other little decisions made along the way
Yeah.
that were, part of it. But those are kind of the major ones that kind of stick out. That had we done something different, things would have turned out greatly different.
Yeah. Do you have any other memories of Harry Bridges and his relationship either with the local 502 or the Canadian area more largely?
Well, another one that affected the whole union was in '69 when we started to fall apart over that '69 fiasco. Some of the international officers said they wrote the Canadian Union off. They said the Canadian Union is finished; it'll be destroyed. Harry said no, they'll make it, and we did. But it was a close-run thing.
Wow.
We had people kicking in the door of the area, going to take over the union, and we had little groups forming that were going to go back to work, and it was a mess because we'd been out on strike for 40-odd days. Had gone back to work, and had a caucus and a convention, hired all new officers, back out on strike again, and then finally settled. When Maxey came out he was labor minister at the time, came out and basically threatened everybody with bad things if it didn't settle. And we were really weak, really weak. The union was weak. Every vote that we took got less and less and less and less
Yeah.
because we were starting to fall apart. And to that, like Lou Goldblatt, who was the secretary-treasurer, he said that the Canadian union's finished, done.
So even Canadian longshoremen thought that about themselves, but Harry Bridges
Stuck
had-
with us, yeah. He said, no, they'll be okay. Now, what was going on behind the scenes, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I would obviously think something.
Mm.
Because Harry had a lot of respect with the employers, a lot of respect from the employers.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of influence that he could exert without anybody else knowing.
Yeah.
Well, like when he saved me, I mean, Strang would have just as soon had me, but whatever he did, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it at the time.
And just for anyone listening to this in the future, what does it mean to shut down a ship?
Well, you stop work. You quit
Okay.
work. You stop. It's other than for safety,
Yeah.
which is called 703, which is the article you can refuse to work.
Yeah.
Any other reason you can't stop work.
Right.
You can call. There's a procedure, grievance machinery. You can file a grievance, but if you just go out and say to everybody, "That's it, pack, we're stopping," you're dead. Yeah. And that's what I've done.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So what would the fine be?
Well, they would sue you
Okay.
for whatever. It'd be
Yeah.
huge. It would be thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow. And that would come out of the union's...
Well, if you lost it, you would have to pay. The court would assess whatever it is,
Yeah.
and you'd pay it. Or well, sometimes give you a choice, a fine or jail.
Yeah.
It probably would have been up in jail. But anyway, that's what there's a procedure you go through.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. But
Yeah.
I mean, they started off. You get a call from your lawyer saying, "I've just received a writ from their lawyer that they're going to do some things to us."
And was 703 the article of a collective
Collective
agreement?
agreement, yes. It's
And that was the safety one.
the safety one, yeah. You can stop work under 703.
Mm.
And then what happens then usually is you stop and the arbitrator is called. We have a job arbitrator comes out on any job. And you usually meets with either side and you say, well, we're not working because this is unsafe. And then he listens to the other side and then, because I'll show you how silly it gets. One time there was a ship and the rungs had all been broken out. And the ladder was an outside one, went down the outside at the end of the hatch. And all the rungs had been broken out. They'd used them to put shackles for bull lines, they call them, and they broke the rungs out. And they'd had an aluminum ladder laying there. So our guy said, well, send the foreman down and tie the ladder to
Right.
to secure it. and then we'll go down and go to work. And the foreman says, no, go down that ladder with the broken lungs. So we refuse to go, right? We get out on the job there, we're arguing, and we're going back and forth with the head foreman. And so finally we call the arbitrator, and he comes out, and we say to him, Neil Monroe was his name, look, there's the ladder. All we asked was for the foreman to go down and secure it at the bottom, and we'll go down to work. Well, he went ballistic, eh? I mean, won the arbitration. Took all shift. I mean, it was an afternoon shift. I think by the time the guys, he ruled in our favor, it was like 11:15. The shift's over 12. So they paid everybody for the whole shift.
Yeah.
Got nothing done over a stupid argument.
Yeah.
But we stopped under 703.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So does 502 have its own arbitrator with
No,
the...
he's jointly appointed, and each side pays half. If there's an arbitration, we pay half.
And he gets hired by the BC. He's jointly appointed by the BCA.
Yeah, and us and the union.
Yeah.
But Neil Monroe was the guy's name, but it was when I was around. And he was the arbitrator for years because you can't fire him. You can't fire the arbitrator until you got a replacement. And usually you can't agree on the replacement, so you don't have one. So you get stuck with the So it's a difficult thing. And now that we've advanced, we had an ex-officer of the union who was arbitrator for years. Bud Barker was his name. He was okay, he was good. I mean, he was quite fair. Both sides, I mean, if you lose, you don't like him, but
Yeah.
if you win, you're happy, right?
Yeah. Would they have been? They wouldn't have been longshoremen, right? Probably lawyers. The arbitrators.
The job arbitrator is usually done by the business agent of the president. Usually.
Okay.
And be one of the labor relations officers from the BCMA.
Yeah.
Would be the two. If you get into the next level, which is called the job arbitrator, it's often, sometimes it's lawyers there, sometimes it's not. It just depends on what kind of a case it is.
So you mentioned that Kaiser's favorite union, had it been not Local 502, the operating engineers, like, I've never heard of them. Who are they?
Well, they're a union that they work in mines and they operate equipment, and
Oh,
they're a big union.
Yeah.
Quite large, yeah. Oh, he might have signed with anybody else too. Who knows? I mean, or he might have gone non-union. But Kaiser was not anti-union per se.
Yeah.
He was quite in favor of a union. He may not agree with them all the time, but that wasn't the issue. He just wouldn't join this. He didn't want to join any employer associations anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that he had chose Roberts Banks because he thought it was a good location to have a...
Yeah, well, the federal
Hold
government
on.
built the islands,
Yeah.
and then they leased the islands, and they put the machinery. They own the machinery.
Okay.
So they'd bought the Bomber coal mine up in the Kootenays there, and so they wanted an outlet to ship the coal. Japan being the big customer at that time. So the federal government built with the islands out there, the causeway, and Kaiser leased it and shipped coal over there.
So today, where do most of the coal go to?
Well, it goes all over the world now.
Now, yeah.
It goes everywhere. I think China's probably the big one now.
Oh, yeah.
But Japan still takes lots. Korea takes lots.
So do you feel like the demand for coal, like since it's West Shore open to now, do you feel like has increased?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
big
yeah?
time.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first year they opened, they probably shipped 5-6 million tons, maybe less. Last year they shipped 30 million. And they're going to do that again this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, the demand for coal has gone up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cyclical business. It goes up and down. Right? I mean, there's been times in '93 when they had a layoff there because coal volumes are down. So it goes up and down, but it's been generally the trend line's been up.
Yeah.
Now, how long that'll go, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's global warming and all that, you never know. Right?
Exactly. It's so interesting. Like, coal is seen as like not as like primitive, but an older style of.
They'll always need coking coal for steel.
Yeah.
Steam coal or thermal coal, maybe they can eliminate that. But there'll always be a need for metallurgical coal. And if they coal went out of business, that island would become a container dock, like overnight almost.
Wow.
I mean, it's a prime location for
Yeah,
containers.
of course, yeah.
Or there could be anything else. There's another natural, an LNG plant.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
whatever goes there, we'll be there.
So, what are your thoughts on Terminal 2, Delta Port, the proposed expansion?
Yeah, well, I wish they'd hurry up and get building it. But it'll be an automated system. It'll be huge. It'll be,
What do you mean by automated? Like how the
It'll
containers
be-
are being picked up?
yeah, it'll be driverless cranes and driverless bomb carts and all kinds of automated stuff. Or there'll be probably instead of one guy per crane, there'll be one guy for 4 cranes and all kinds of things like that. Yeah, it'll be highly automated. The future is going to be in maintenance,
Yeah.
because you can eliminate the operators and stuff like that, but you can't eliminate the guys to fix it.
Yeah.
So in the future is going to be electricians.
That will be longshoremen.
Yeah, we'll be fighting hard to make sure it is.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
If it's a BCMA company, which it probably will, it would be automatic. Because they have a contract. Our contract is
Yeah.
with the BCMA. So it'll be if it's a BCMA company, it'll be us for sure.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if they'd hurry up, because it takes a while to man up for a thing like that. Eh? You just
Yeah.
don't do that overnight.
How much labor you think you guys will need? The union will have to expand.
I don't know, Michelle. But we didn't, like when TSI started, they had meetings with us and said we're going to need like 170, 180 guys a shift. We didn't believe them. Well, it was right. They were right. So we had to scramble to get people. Which, if you had some years lead time,
Yeah.
we could start building the membership up ahead of time, so that when it hits, it doesn't we're not behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And like I say, we're going to need a lot of maintenance kind of people, electricians and computer type guys and all that, which you have to go and find or train.
Yeah. They would probably have to go through like BSAT or something like that.
Yeah, well, if you know what you need, you can start looking around, right?
Yeah.
And you can start training programs and getting people, set up so they can do it. That's why I always tell these young guys that we got starting now that are in their late teens, early 20s, I says, grab any apprenticeship you can, because the days of running machinery are going to be less and less and less, because they can run a machine now without a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're trying driverless trucks on the highway.
Yeah.
Is that being tried here in BC?
You try right now, not BC, but
Mm.
in the States,
Mm.
if it works.
Mm.
And we got cats now that there's nobody on them.
What?
They run from a GPS.
Wow.
Like, you punch in the pattern,
Mm.
and the cat just pushes that pattern.
Yeah.
Wow.
So who knows where technology is going to go?
Mm.
But there'll always be people required to fix them.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe 100 years they get robots to do it, but in the near future. And like I say, like the electrical field is going to be the big one, electrics and computers.
Right.
So, do longshoremen, LW longshoremen, work at Prince Rupert?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Prince Rupert is. Peter was just telling me they're up to 100 or 300 members now.
Oh.
When I first worked with them, they were down around 26, 25.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a small facility.
Yeah, and most of them I think were from the Tassus fiasco.
What's
Well,
that?
the Tassus on the island is at that town, and we had an agreement that we would do the loading of the ship, the lumber and the pulp, and the guys would work in the mill when there's no ship there, and they would work on the ship.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that whole deal fell apart with the IWA and the company and everything else. So we had taken in, we took 3 guys in here in Westminster, and Vancouver took about 8 or 9, I believe, and the rest went up to Rupert, became the Rupert local.
I see. Wow.
Yeah.
And when was that?
Well, I was a casual then, so that would have been 61, 62.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're gonna expand
Yeah.
a lot. They're gonna get a lot more longshoremen
Yeah, and
there.
they're going to need more, because if they add on to that dock,
Yeah.
they'll need more people. And they'll need maintenance too, because that's, because I remember when I was a casual then too, they asked a bunch of us guys to go up there, because they got a huge pulp and they didn't have very good lift truck drivers, guys that could drive lift trucks. So a bunch of those young guys went up there and drove. They stayed up there for, I think some guys stayed up for 3 months and just drove lift truck and did whatever, right?
So do you think, would any of the casuals here at 500 and 502 go to Prince Rupert to work?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any 500 guys went, but the 502 guys did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was about 10 guys went up there
Yeah.
and drove lift truck and did whatever.
Yeah. So, the last question for you is, what do you think of the youth committee, the youth conference that the ILW Canada
That's
has
good.
now?
It's really, I'm impressed with what we got. Like, we got the education committee,
Yeah.
and they're doing that podcast.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I don't know anything about that stuff, but it's really good that they're doing that, because it's educating all the young guys, them young people, not guys but women too. Because we grow so fast. Like when I started out, you worked with guys that had been in the waterfront like 30, 40 years, and that's where you learned what the ropes say. But all of a sudden we grew, and we were throwing people on the job that hadn't have a clue, and you'd have a whole gang of people who didn't have a clue what's going on, and people got hurt because they were just inexperienced. And then they started hiring trainers to go down and work with them. But that's what happened. We just ended up having so many people that we just threw people on the job, which was not a good thing.
Yeah.
So this education committee and this book and all this stuff is going to help with all that. And lots of people don't understand what the union went through to get where they think it's always been like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been like heaven here. It was a few times a hell, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So it's good that they, like the book will explain a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff. And all the education committee, and then the podcasts. Look, I've been on it, I think, 3 times. And they just ask questions like this, and you just tell them what it was like.
Yeah.
And so that's good. Yeah, it's really good.
I just got one more question too, and it's just returning to Harry Bridges. You met him, right?
Oh, many times.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you met him, can you tell us what he was like?
Well, he was kind of a funny guy. He had a good sense of humor.
Mm.
He loved to gamble on the horses.
Mm.
And every time he was here, when it was free time, he'd be heading for the track.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, he was quite a pleasant guy. He had a nice personality.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why he got along with the employers quite well. He wasn't a belligerent individual, and he didn't come across as arrogant, or he was quite calm and down to earth kind of a guy. Yeah.
I had an Australian accent, I suppose.
He did, yeah. He got less and less as he.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was one of those kind of people like Churchill. You know, he was a man for his time.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he came around just at the right during the Depression there, and you know, everything was rough, and there was no workers' rights per se. And like he told me many times, he says, Joe, he says, you know what union was smashed the most? And I said, oh, well, no. He says, us. Not the LWU, but the longshore unions. Because each dock, even here, each dock had its own little labor group.
Yeah.
And they'd go on strike, and then they'd discab them and smash them, and then they'd blackball them.
Yeah.
So it was going on up and down the coast like that, everywhere. And then we had the Shape Up, which was a cruel system. And so he had the vision to eliminate the Shape Up, get a coastwise collective agreement, and a union dispatch system. And he asked for $1 an hour. And out of the 4, he got 100% money. I think he got 60 cents of the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But that was he had that vision, right? And he had the wherewithal to make it happen. And like he told me, he says, you know, when the strike was at its worst in '35, and I guess he was getting a little despondent, he went to the Teamsters Union, and he got the Teamsters Union agreed to not to drive across the picket line, and that ended the strike. Won it for him. So He had that vision, right? And he had that wherewithal to make it into practice. And he convinced that, he was a spellbinder. He was a spellbinder speaker. Like when he gave a speech at a convention, there was no noise anywhere. Everybody's listening, right? Yeah. And he was always thinking in a way ahead. Because I remember in '63, when he came up, we were negotiating the M&M agreement then. And he came up to us and he said, the future is going to be in containers. But we didn't believe him, right? Because containers, what's a container? That's a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And so we thought, but he was right. Eh?
Yeah, that's right. He remembered everyone's names when he would come up to Canada.
If he met it a few times,
Yeah.
he knew. He knew me. He would say hi, Joe.
Yeah.
He was the special name guy, but
No.
yeah, if you dealt with him a lot,
Yeah.
or talked to him a lot, then he knew you. Yeah.
And what was his leadership style like, or what was he like when he was bargaining?
But when he was bargaining, he was sharp, really sharp. And you could go and sit in, like rank and filers could go. You wouldn't dare say anything, but you could sit along the back of the wall and listen. I don't think they do that anymore, but back then they could. And he was a Democrat. People get up and just thrash him at a convention, disagree with him. I mean, they wouldn't get personal, but they would be quite vocal about it. And he just let him talk on. And he would say, no, go ahead, the guy's, as long as he's not out of order, swearing or threatening or just saying his piece, he's perfectly willing to. Because I was at a convention one time, and we had Teamsters over there, and but Jimmy Hoffa was the keynote speaker. And so Teamster guy was sitting like where you are. And just before Hoffa was going to speak, this one guy got up, and he was ripping Harry about I forget what, just going at him. And the Teamster guy leaned over, and he says, if that guy was in our union, he'd be in the bay this afternoon.
That's what Jimmy Hoffa said?
No, not Jimmy. One of his.
Oh,
one of the guys who were with him.
Right.
Jimmy was sitting up on the stage.
Right. Okay.
But and Harry just let him go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got personal or threatening, then he'd stop you.
Yeah.
But if you were just disagreeing, doesn't matter how mad you got or loud you got, you just let him carry on.
Yeah.
And that's the way he was.
Yeah.
Did you go to his funeral?
No, I didn't go. No.
That was San Francisco, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
No, I didn't go there. No.
Yeah, what was it like when he died?
Well, it was a sad thing, but he'd been retired, and he's like a lot of us guys. He stayed around too long.
Yeah.
He was in his 70s when he finally quit, I think.
Wow.
It's not a good thing to stay around that long. And the guy that took over was Jimmy Herman, which was a really sharp guy. And led the union through that transition period.
Did you ever meet his wife?
I met her, his first wife, or his second wife, sorry.
Yeah.
I never met the first
Yeah.
wife. Yeah, I met her once or twice.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have known me. You just met her at convention, banquet things,
Any other questions?
Yeah.
No? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.